Thank you, second. Second by Josh. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. We do have one presentation with Ryan. Ryan?
Oh, well, look at Cassandra didn't even put a time limit on me.
So that should be 5 minutes.
She knows it doesn't mean
Tom's
anything.
got 5 minutes.
Time's up already. Capital projects roundup, please. Okay, we have a lot of capital projects going on, not just the projects that were part of the $50 million bond that we did. We have regularly scheduled capital projects in 2022 that we're working on, as well as capital projects from 2021 that we are wrapping up. So here is a comprehensive list of all of the capital projects the county is working on at the moment. Solid waste upgrades. We started this last summer. We are now 99% complete. There's a couple things that the contractors come back, like punch list items. Otherwise, it's complete. So this is the vision that we're talking about. You can see on the left side, the trucks can come in, on the upper level, this is that solid waste, dump their garbage. Our truck is parked below, and we have equipment now that pushes it down into there, into the truck. It drives right out. You'll also notice on the right that we're altering the entrance to solid waste. It used to have that runway where you could run in and run out. The DOT was not very pleased that that was ever allowed to be in place. So we're going to be mitigating that, and it'll be a straight kind of T-shaped in and out, like most things, excuse me, off 26 are.
A straight T-shape.
Yeah, perpendicular.
We ever have an accident there, just out of curiosity?
Not that I know. We have had some. 1 or 2 of them, 23 years ago.
We don't like to admit when the DOT is. We didn't. So, new highway garage. This is some progress that's happening on the East Road campus. You can see the building that is largely complete there. That will be the wash bay. That's the first one they started with. You can see on the right picture a little bit there, but you can see it better here. The foundations are being prepared for the other 2 buildings. So you'll have the main building here, the cold storage here, and then of course the wash bay down there. So it'll all be in a nice. Wash bay is not, it's a drive in, back out, and then go forward. Okay. So with the way the traffic ended up, the final design was we weren't able to do a complete drive-through, pull in, pull out. So. New maintenance garage. This is at DSS over on Stowe Street. You can see they're making quite a bit of progress there. We expect that Matt's team should be in by the end of the summer to that building. So I think that'll be helpful. All these years we've had to fix mowers and everything else down in the basement of the courthouse. It'd be nice to have a spot where we can have a little workshop. So very good. Glenfield Elementary renovation. This, we are still prepared for an August 1st move. We tried to get moving a little bit quicker to maybe give Betty and Craig more time at the Stowe Street site, but the technology and the logistics of the move have, we've had to stay firm to that August 1st move date. But you can see that there's 2 aspects of this project. One on the left is the data. Matt sent me a bunch of pictures of data, but it's basically just wires. And then on the right, we had to, this is the library. You can see we took out all the bookshelves and we put in new walls in some places as well. So the one on the left there, that's blocking off, you've got a secure door now going into the new wing for whatever may go in there, childcare, whatever it may be. It'll be secure and separate from our county operations. So Singing Waters Bathhouse, this started this spring. We're still hoping for a September completion date, but there's an awful lot of landscaping and stuff that needs to go into that before then. But you can see the foundation for the bathhouse is poured. The new electrical conduit for the pump is being run on the right. Here you can see the sewer line, which will go into the new septic system that's on the right, and in the center is the electrical line, probably, Jackie?
Electric and water.
Electric and water. Yeah. Lewis County Health System, I don't have too much of an update on them other than progress is moving along. There will be a tour of the construction site at the Board of Managers meeting tomorrow, so I'm sure that the Board of Managers would be happy if any legislator wanted to tag along to that meeting and check it out. We also have a live stream video of that project at all times. You can click on that. I don't know if you guys realize this, but you go on the hospital website, you can check out a live stream of their project 24/7.
Is there audio or just?
Just video. So that's what it looks like right now. Yep, that's what it looks like on launch break.
It is that time.
You know, my 4-year-old, I find this fascinating.
I've heard that the residents of the nursing home are really enjoying watching the progress out there.
See much movement.
You better get on that thing. DMV Board of Elections renovation addition. This is the latest rendering from our architect of what that addition will look like. We are still planning to bid that project in mid-August, which means we'll get it off the ground this fall, and it'll take us most of 2023 to get through the completion of that. Public safety HVAC building, HVAC replacement. We started this actually last winter. This has been a lot more complicated a project than we originally anticipated. But we are making progress. We did award $1.2 million contract to Empire Northeast. You guys did that a couple months ago. Project kickoff to that meeting is on Wednesday. We'll start with the administrative suites and the parts of the building that are not, don't have access issues with the jail portion. And we are still waiting on an air handling unit, which apparently might not arrive until February. Our projection at this point is that we will need to board out the inmates, and that might come sometime midwinter. And we'll have to send them to Oneida or Jefferson County for a few days as we finalize that project. So
Where's that Wednesday meeting? We settle on back down to the.
we haven't invited legislators to participate in it. This is separate from the from the
Normal project.
normal.
Okay.
But if anybody what time is the meeting Wednesday? Kick off 11 o'clock Wednesday.
At the PSP conference.
Okay, so if anybody wants to join the kickoff for that with our engineers and our contractor, you're more than welcome. 11 o'clock at the PSP Wednesday. So that's moving along. Additional projects planned for 2022. Radio system phase 2 upgrade, that is happening as we speak. That is completely grant funded, but you might recall the county invested in acquiring 2 more frequency pairs, one more pair of frequencies. When we combine that with our existing frequencies, we'll be able to add more channels and more capacity to our system, which will give us even more ability to avoid high traffic incidents and whatnot. Courthouse heated sidewalk project, $162,000, that is scheduled for this August. The board awarded those bids at last month's meeting. Greg Road box culvert, there's something in here tonight to approve the bid for that. That'll begin sometime in July, right next to Tom's house, I think. And the solid waste scale house is the final one, which we have a resolution in your packet for today, which will generate the most discussion, which is why I wanted to provide some background on that. So the scale house project is fairly simple. It's a 20 by 30 building, 1,200 square feet, right? Yep, not huge. Excuse me? 20 by 40, yeah, 20 by 40. The original budget, when we put together the whole solid waste upgrade plan on August 18th, 2020, I presented a budget to you guys, looked like this. And at that time, the money we had put in was $142,500 for that project. The first bid we received on March 17th was $318,000. That was won by Capital Construction Corporation. The board at that time decided to reject the bids. Inflation was just heating up. People weren't sure what was going to happen to the economy. We decided to wait. We did go back to the drawing board. We tried to redesign some of the documents. We flipped the building around to decrease the amount of trenching that would be needed for the electrical service. And we substituted aluminum for copper, tried to make some value. Yes, right, the other way around. Some value engineering, try to make it a little bit cheaper. Bid it again. Bids open on May 26, 2022. The low bid then came in at $485,000 by Continental Construction. That is what's in your packet for discussion today. So we can either have a little discussion now. Ian, I've got one more slide to kind of talk about budget, or we can get into it when you get to the docket item. It's up to you.
Let's get back to it.
Okay, so.
Our memories are that, sometimes my memory for 10 minutes. can-
So when we get to that docket item, I can give a rundown of some more budget items. How about that?
That's fine.
So that's it for capital projects. If anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Ryan. I'll move on to the dockets.
The first docket is adopting local law number 3-2022, the amended local law regulating and permitting special events on county roads, trails, or other county property and on any town roads and property where the town has opted in.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Awarding bid and authorizing an agreement with J. Arthur Seal Coating and Contracting for snow plowing services at the 911 tower sites for the 2022-2023 snow season at a cost of $29,150.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Awarding bid and authorizing an agreement with J. Arthur Seal Coating and Contracting for snow plowing and sanding of the Lewis County Jefferson Community College Education Center parking lot for the 2022-2023 snow season at a cost of $9,200.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Authorizing agreement between the County of Lewis and Climate Control Mechanical of New York for annual inspections and maintenance services at the Glenfield School Complex from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2024 at a year one cost of $10,560 and a year two cost of $10,876.80.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Authorizing agreement between the County of Lewis and Core Climate Systems for service work associated with the DDC system at the Glenfield School Complex from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2024 at a cost not to exceed $9,120 for both years.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Awarding the bid and authorizing agreement with Tuscarora Construction Company for the Lewis County Highway Department's box culvert replacement project, County Road 40 over Tannery Creek at a cost of $408,710.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye, excuse me. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Transferring $40,000 from regular contingency to the probation department accounts for raise the age expenses related to youth detention costs.
Any discussion?
What does that mean?
It means that in 2018, the state passed raise the age legislation, which prevented us from basically incarcerating kids that are 17 or 18, 16 or 17 years old. We have put money in the budget every year in case we had to put one of those cases into secured detention, since they weren't allowed to go to jail anymore. We had to, the state had to create these secured detention facilities for youth. We've put $20,000 a year in the budget. We've never had to touch it. This year is the first year that we've had someone that's needed specialized secure detention. They're at a facility in Albany.
Just south of Syracuse.
South Syracuse. And close. Well, we just put a foster. There's another one for a foster, but anyway. We've never touched that money every year. This year, the cost is quite expensive, like $800 a day or something. We've gone through the budget amount, so we need some contingency. This particular young man will be turning 18 shortly, and when he does, he'll no longer be under the care of the county. But in the meantime, we are responsible for his secure detention. And we always knew this day could come, that, one person could blow through our budget in a short amount of time. But we've been lucky enough that we haven't had that happen until recently.
So when he turns 18, is he coming to the jail? Or is he?
We probably can't talk too specifically about his case, but we will no longer have to pay for his secure detention as a juvenile.
He can be detained in our regular detention places.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Authorizing an agreement between the County of Lewis and New Singular Wireless, PCS, to lease space on the Montague 911 tower and site for a payment to the county of $2,200 for the initial testing, and if they choose to commence with a 5-year lease term, it will be for a payment of $2,200 per month to the county.
Any discussion?
Where would those funds go?
Half of them go to the landowner that we leased the tower from, that pursuant to that lease agreement that it was originally made.
Right.
And then the other, just a general fund?
We don't have like a 911 tower fund or anything like that. It's just-
All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Do you want me to do, the late one and then go to the solid
Yeah,
waste
let's
one?
do the late
Okay. The late docket is authorizing grant of easement to Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation at the county's highway garage property on Route 812 and East Road as a result of the county's facilities improvement project.
Any discussion?
Hmm.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Bring back up my-
Going back to number 9, awarding bid and authorizing an agreement between the County of Lewis and Continental Construction LLC for the Scale House project in the amount of $485,784.
All right. Any discussion?
Can I
Yeah, go ahead.
add one more bit of information here? So when we first started talking about this entire project, not just the scale house, but the whole facility renovations, we had a fund balance beginning of about $861,000 in solid waste. Like I said, the scale house portion of that was going to be $142,500. In that first budget, we were comfortable with bringing our fund balance all the way down to 192, because we were at 861, we bought a lot of equipment, we got the loan from the general fund, and we were gonna draw that down to 192,000. This is where we are currently. Even though we've done a ton of work, and we've bought an equipment, and we've crashed a couple of pieces of equipment, our fund balance has still stayed high at about $700,000. We still have $150,000 left on the loan that we can spend. So in other words, it's to be spent from the general fund. The scale house bid is $485,000, which is outrageous, I agree. But even with that $485,000, if you take the fund balance we have, the amount we have left to spend on the loan, that still gives us a final fund balance of $364,000, which is nearly double what we had planned on originally. My point is, I'm not saying that $485,000 is a good deal. I'm simply saying it's within the budget estimate. It's well within the budget estimate we set back in 2020. So with that, I'll turn it over to you guys. We can get our engineer on the line. He's happy to call in if we'd like a little more background from him as well.
I saw Phil first, then Dick. Go ahead, Phil.
Ian, I gotta admit again that I was wrong.
What?
When the bids came in before, I thought, well, it can't get any worse. And lo and behold, it did. Now I'm wondering, can it get any worse or can it get any better? And how much would we gain by waiting? And it just seems like with all the unknowns and with everything that's happening, it just seems like it would be more prudent just to go ahead and do it. And if we save 5% next year, what have we done? You know, and I was wondering, Kip, if doing this, does this increase your efficiency up there?
It will help the efficiencies as far as my work goes, yes. As far as being able to be in one building, you know, it saves a lot of movement and traveling around, but as far as efficiencies, getting the older, people that have a hard time with the stairs, you know what I'm saying? That is huge. It's gonna be more customer service friendly, for certain. That's where it's huge, that's, you know, for us.
That would be more so efficiency than financial efficiency.
Correct.
I don't think it's gonna help us load garbage any quicker or better.
No, that's correct. As far as, but as a customer basis, it's big.
And if you guys haven't, and I'm not putting pressure that we should accept this bid, I'm saying this project is a good project, because the break room that they're in now is, if we don't do this, we gotta do something for the boys' break room. It's not very healthy.
I think Josh said it good about the bids. You couldn't get much closer than that. I think that was so obviously the bids were good, I guess. Is that your assessment?
They're a competitive bid. Prices do come down. If you wait 6 months down the road, the prevailing wage rate's only gonna increase 3 to 5%. So if prices come down 3 to 5, your labor rate's gonna go up that 3 to 5, and equipment costs is going up. So I don't know. I don't think it's gonna get any cheaper.
Well, it's not anytime soon, because I don't think there's any question moving forward with the project, it's just a question of timing. Do we roll the dice again and see where we can land in 6 months, or is it not worth extending it out further? And it could get worse. None of us are wizards, we can't see the future. Go ahead.
Yeah, Brian, the beginning fund balance above the top of 861, that's the enterprise beginning fund
Yes.
balance?
Yes.
Okay, then down under current budget, you've got general fund loan balance. That's our
We
general
loaned
fund
them-
loaning them 149,623.
They still have not spent, well, because our plan was to pay for this with a loan. It actually worked out pretty good. The amount we have left from the loan was the amount 149. What we wanted to pay for the scale house was 142. It would have been perfect. But, so now we need not only that remaining 150 or 149, we also need an additional 300 something from the fund balance, is what I'm saying.
Right, okay. So we are loaning, but we're gonna get repaid.
They're paying us back, yes.
Whatever.
Right, you said there were 7 bids on this round.
Yeah, the next lowest was about $30, close to that one, but very tight. The highest was like 600 and something.
Yeah.
I think I heard a motion from Phil almost, and I'd second it. I did. Move forward.
Any thoughts from outside the committee? Okay. All right, thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We have no motions. Is there any other business to bring before the committee? We probably broke a record today.
Even when Brian
Yeah,
talked.
despite the time. So if you give him a little bit of leash, you can actually.
I thought we were.
Tom was watching him though.
We got him worse on the earlier meetings, so we got
We get a motion to adjourn. Motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Meeting's now adjourned. Thank you.
Waiting for his.
You let's wait for Jerry or no?
Jerry and all of
You left before me.
Oh, okay.
you.
So we
No,
can
just from May 17th. Bill, Josh, all in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. You want to move on to something, or are we waiting for somebody, or?
Can we give Jerry Care a couple minutes? You guys want to do dockets first, and then we can do the presentation second?
Move on to docket?
The first docket is amending compensation plan of the County of Lewis with reference to the Information Technology Department to abolish one full-time computer systems assistant position and create one full-time LAN administrator position.
Any questions or comments?
LAN. LAN is something to do with.
Local area.
Yes, so here's the deal with this position. We have an LAN administrator at DSS. In this year's budget, we added the the computer systems assistant position. We haven't filled it. We've been waiting, it's like a half-year position, because we thought we'd need an extra set of hands during the move and the construction, which is still true. However, in the meantime, we found out that our LAN administrator is looking to retire probably before we move back into the new building. So we'd like this person to actually be hired as an LAN administrator so that they can learn from that person before they retire. And then we still don't really have the extra set of hands that we were planning on, but we can deal with that in the 2023 budget. So that's what we're asking for.
Anything else? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing application to New York State Homeland Security and Emergency Services Fiscal Year 2020 Cybersecurity Targeted Grant Program for costs associated with implementation of equipment, training, and software to improve security of the county's information technology systems.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Awarding bid and authorizing agreement between the County of Lewis and Christian Business Endeavors, DBA Coughlin Printing, for website redesign at a cost of $128,750 for a 5-year contract with 5 multi-sites included.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, can I just put a statement on the record about this?
Yep.
I know I sent to all of the legislators the potential conflict of interest that was posed with this bid award. The IT director's father is the owner of Coughlin Printing. Other members of the IT department did meet with the county manager and myself and members of this committee to review and vet all of the bids that were received. When the IT employees compared apples to apples to the extent you can with technical data. It, as you see in the resolution, it was determined that Coughlin would be considered the lowest bidder with a 5-year multi-state plan involved. I feel confident that the conflict of interest was addressed appropriately by our local law in having the IT director recuse himself from all matters pertaining to this bid award and actually for the contract itself going forward. I also don't believe there was a violation of the General Municipal Law 801, which is a conflict of interest for New York State municipalities. And if the board is inclined to reward it, I think we are on proper ground, and I think everything that should have been done to remove any potential appearance of a conflict of interest has been taken.
So he would, excuse me, recuse himself from the development and implementation.
He will have no contact with Coughlin in terms of this contract. Any of the auditing of bills that will come in will be done by somebody else, even if it's done by the county manager. And we will remove any potential appearance of a conflict.
Basically be administered by the purchasing director, right?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I thought about this, and my thought was, even if it was a little bit more, it's a service contract. Everybody else was from either out of state, downstate, not in this area at all. I think we try to encourage people to buy local, and I think that's what we would be doing. It's a service contract, it employs people. It's not like it's buying a big piece of equipment from someplace else. It's local employment. It's helping our area and our community. So I think that helps justify this also.
Okay, very good. Anything else? If no further questions or comments, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Appropriating funds to planning department accounts in the amount of $10,215 for various community projects by closing out an old CDBG account.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing an agreement with Jefferson Concrete Corp. for the purchase of precast concrete pads for the bus stop shelters for Lewis County Public Transportation at a cost not to exceed $10,000.
Any questions or comments?
How many pads is that? Does anybody know?
I believe it's going to be 6 pads, and the total of that all will be under $10,000.
Anything else? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing an agreement with Labella Associates, DPC, for professional consulting services to assist with the Downtown Revitalization Initiative application at an amount not to exceed $8,500, with the Village of Lowell contributing $5,000 of the cost.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing Lewis County to apply for 2022 New York Main Street Target Area Building Renovation Project funding through the New York State Consolidated Funding application for up to $500,000 to continue the Lewis County Facade and Streetscape Improvement Program.
Any questions or comments?
I'd just like to add that this is a new grant program that has been launched by the state. The DRI, which was resolution number 6, is in its 5th or 6th year here in New York State. Lowville has been unsuccessful the last 3 years. So we're still looking to land the big $10 million with the DRI for the Village of Lowville. In addition, though, the state has created a program for smaller communities called the New York Main Street Program. And we're looking to get $500,000 so we can offer 2 more rounds of the facade program. We had round 1. Those projects are ongoing right now. Round 2 launches in the fall. And if we're awarded this funding, we can do 2 more rounds of the facade program. So that's the goal.
Good.
And that's a good program.
Yes, it is.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing Lewis County to apply for the 2022-2023 Smart Growth Community Planning and Zoning Grant Program funds to advance the preparation and adoption of the updated zoning regulations on behalf of the town of Watson.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Motion carried.
The only motion that I have is a motion to move the scheduled July legislative committee meetings to Monday, July 18th, due to the opening day of the Lewis County Fair.
I'll make that a motion. I have a second?
Second.
And Josh, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, everybody, that covers our dockets and our motion.
Yep.
Guess we'll go back to the beginning now, since everybody's here. We have a presentation, a discussion on our Lewis County Health Insurance by GKG representatives.
Yes.
I don't know anybody's name, so take over, introduce yourself, and go from there.
Yeah, so do you guys want to come up and join for sake of discussion?
Jerry looks kind of comfortable.
Right back there.
I think we're good and.
Okay. Okay.
Tom, a quick introduction from us maybe. This is, we have Larry, Susie, and Robert from GKG. We meet with Susie and Robert almost on a monthly basis for our health plan administrative team. They are on contract for us as consultants. I think many of you maybe are, some of you are newer, as I am. So they've been with us as our consultants for quite a few years. And again, work with us very regularly to keep our plan going on a path that we want. And they like to meet with us once a year to really kind of go through some higher level discussions. They bring Larry along as the heavy hitter for those meetings.
I wondered about that.
And Robert is always happy to bring baked goods from a bakery down in their area, but he hasn't been able to do that for 2 years, so I think he's happy to have some.
So, yeah,
Some
so help
goods here
yourself,
for us.
everyone, before we get started.
So that's our introduction, and turn it over to them.
And I would just add one thing, when we started working with GKG, Larry and Dick and Phil, some of the guys that have been around for a while, there's a time there when our health insurance fund was not doing well at all. We've made some reforms, we've pushed the envelope about as far as we can on any creative solution we can come up with. And at this point, we have a different issue, which is that our health insurance fund is certainly quite strong, and we're looking for ways to be creative to spend that money. So it helped us turn that around. Go ahead, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks for having us. It's the first time we've been able to do a stewardship meeting in person in 2.5 years. So thanks for having us back. We're happy to be here. So the purpose of today's meeting is to go through what we call our annual strategic meeting. We're working together all throughout the course of the year, but this provides us an opportunity to really discuss the county's goals at a high level, really well above the health plan, so that all the work that we can do, we will do, can then support those goals. And then to memorialize the things that we've accomplished together as a team throughout the year and lay a plan for the coming 12 months. Sound good? Okay, so I think almost everybody has.
One question.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so Robert, I will let you.
So Susie already covered the agenda, so that's good, that's on your left, which is perfect, thank you. If you look at this page, the circle, the inner green circle is what we do on a daily basis with all our clients. Today we're stepping back and looking more strategically and looking at the outer blue circle. And if you look at the upper left, we're going to be more strategic, and that's in our discover phase. What we're looking at is the way our model is and how we operate. But I always say, if you turn the page, this is the biggest page of the whole presentation, is just thanking you for placing your trust and your faith into the GKG team. This is our 9th stewardship, so it's great. Next page, driving success. We know you're good at what you do, and we're good at risk, and when the circles join, that's where we implement our high impact goals, and you're going to see that in the later in the presentation. We really want to focus on the business vision, and if you look at the business environment, we have included what we did in 21, what we discussed. We sent this out a week ago just to refresh everybody, but if you have time to read through that, glance through that, and then we'll talk about what's changed. If we need to eliminate or add things to it, we can definitely do that. And we'll start at the top where it says vision.
So as you think about that vision, we ask that you put yourselves 3 to 5 years in the future and look backwards. And in order for you to feel good about what's happened at the county, what would have had to have happened in that 3 to 5 year time frame in order for you to feel positive about what's transpired? So go forward and then look backwards, if that makes sense.
I know.
How old are you gonna be in 5 years, though?
I'm regressing, I'm getting better.
So I think a lot of this, still holds true from our conversations last year. I think one thing that is shifting, at least for me a little bit, and since we are talking about employee benefits, we are in an environment right now where it's becoming harder to recruit employees and retain employees. And I think if we were able to, go ahead 5 years and look back, I hope that we would find ourselves in an environment where we are still able to compete with the best employers in the area for top talent. And I think that's still the case, but it's becoming less evident, I think, sometimes.
Any other thoughts?
Are we focused on dangers?
No, we're just really on just the vision first, if anything is different there.
I mean, if you look ahead, Jerry, 3 years from now, you'll have the new OR will be open, right?
Right.
So that'll be completed, and when is the date on that?
December 2023.
I watched that all the time on
The live.
yeah, the live, yeah, it's crazy.
I pulled it up in my last presentation, and I think they're on a lunch break. 'Cause
Everything else hold true? As far as the vision? Okay, so dangers. So we would look to you to tell us what no longer, something should be struck from that, or something that's new and emerging, or if that stays the same.
3/4 of the way down, we did receive the certificate of need, so that can be removed.
Okay.
What was used to determine that the Lewis County population is poor health? The overall health of Lewis County is poor.
We have several indicators. In fact, I think Ashley's got a presentation coming up, but we've got the biannual health survey that FDR HPO puts together. And we consistently rank quite poorly in terms of obesity, heart disease, mental health, alcoholism, diabetes. Jerry and I.
Yeah, you're right on. In fact, two of our goals this year are focused on diabetes and colon health, colon cancer, which are major killers in New York State and Lewis County.
Okay, thank you.
And that same data would be reflected in your Excelis utilization reviews that we look at each year.
Yeah, we don't get individualized, obviously. We don't see each of the employee or retirees' names. We get the collective data, and then they compare that against benchmarks. And our population of employees and retirees always do worse than the benchmark in terms of overall health. I think the dangers are still fairly accurate. It's funny, we had I'm assuming that came from Eric a year ago to say the risk of inflation, because him and I were fighting about that, but he ended up being right.
How's it feel? Would you say our cyber risk has gone down with the MFA?
We're working on the cyber risk, definitely. I mean, we've taken a lot of steps forward, but I think it needs to be something that we continue to track.
Okay.
We've done a lot in cyber, actually.
Anything new that has emerged since we were last together?
Well, contract status has been finalized to some extent, so that's since a year ago.
Oh, yeah, that's in our opportunities section.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe not a danger, but
Okay, so we can move on to the opportunities. So do those 5 continue to exist?
More or less.
Would you want to put anything about green energy, the solar and wind, that one?
Sure.
I mean, that could go under strength, too, if we've already.
Tell us about that.
We are, the home to the most number of windmills in the state, and we're seeing a lot of increase in, well, we've got more windmills being built this summer, and we've got multiple solar projects, as well, hydro projects. We think that could help us be more competitive for businesses. If, climate becomes more a priority for corporations, they might want to come here and take advantage of our green infrastructure.
Yeah, awesome. Strengths?
I mean, I guess we still like those guys over there.
Mutual or? Well, that's right, this is where I'm supposed to say the same. No, I think Ryan is right. I do think there's a good collaboration between the two of us. I think a strength worth mentioning that does impact us are the schools of Lewis County.
Yeah.
They're important in recruiting and retention. And the number of times we engage, mostly with Loudville, but not exclusively Loudville, when we have someone visiting, either a physician or someone we're looking to bring into the community, that is part of the mix for us. I think the other I hear a lot about from people we recruit is, again, since the health system is in Loudville, we hear a lot about the walkability of the village. And so this notion of where we do have population centers, the ability to walk and, either go to the restaurant, movie theater, the local pub, and not have to drive. I think that's a real strength, specifically in Loudville, but we have some other communities with that as well. And then Krogan is another community that's walkable. So that's a strength.
And then the last is a differentiation. So what kind of sets Lewis County apart?
Ryan.
Does that belong in danger?
I wasn't sure
Depends on the
where to
day.
put that.
So the one that's there certainly remains true. Anything else?
I think relative safety, that is something that when we bring physicians and other candidates to visit, they talk about the scaling of safety when they're here. We just live it every day, so it's almost taken for granted. But if you're coming from other parts of New York State or the country, it's palpable, feels safe.
Okay, thank you. If we could ask you to do us a favor and just skip over the next page and go to the one that has lots of color and charts on it. Larry's gonna take us through that piece.
Sure, so the left side of this page, the insured risk, just reflects your cost, but that's not always what you're concerned with as your biggest risks. And when we revisited this last year, we came up with 7, starting with the New York financial position. And, Ryan, you've emphasized number 2 there, the workforce issues for both the hospital and the county. We touched on cyber here. But let me just let you take a look down through those 7 and see if any of them, I don't know, have gone away necessarily, but if there are any that should be added or considered as we take a look at this.
Well, I think that enough has changed that I don't know if the New York State's financial position is our number 1 risk anymore. It still always hangs over our head, but I don't know if it needs to be the number 1.
Drop it
In the
down.
last 2 years, we're certainly, there was a lot of potential for risk with what was happening in the state that seemingly has turned around a little bit. But not the 1 probably.
Would anything else move up, or would you just move that down and slide them all up?
Number 5 to me
Goes up or?
goes up, yeah.
To the top?
Well, I don't know, it'd be great to hear from the legislators on this one.
Number 5 has to move up.
Increase that by 10, and drop the New York State financial position, decrease that by 10. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that number 7 should go up by at least 10. That's, with my glasses on. I would say 20, but I would consider
Well, health, we pride ourselves, we just talked about all the strengths or quality of life. And there's no quality of life without, quality of individual's health, So I think that is a very important factor.
And we just, touched on how we are an unhealthy population and, highlighted last month that our mental health is also on the decline and pandemic. Okay, let's put it up by 40 points.
I think we can slide number 3 all the way to the bottom and put it at like 5%. We are very close to resolving that. So I think it's one of those that's in the windshield, but we don't pay much attention to it right now because it's moving through the process. But we can't take our eye off the ball either.
Maybe we could just include with the New York financial position, the overall economics,
Sure.
inflation, recession threat,
Yeah.
which would certainly impact New York State. And again, for us, this is directional versus an exact science, so I think what you shared is good unless there's something that isn't on here that we should add, but I think we've got a pretty good handle here.
I think it's interesting, I think the legislators will find the left column interesting. If we would have given that to you blind, what percentage of all of our insurance premiums go towards employee benefits? Would you have said 96%?
Right, if you throw pension in, you're probably up to.
Okay, thank you.
Susie,
Yeah.
following up on Lisa's point, and I do think mental health needs to be reflected from a health perspective. It's probably the single biggest area of weakness in Lewis County. And so, working it into, the word, kind of the physical health and public health of the county as a whole is a
Yeah.
way not to lose that particular
Yeah,
word.
okay, absolutely.
Why'd you look at me when you said that?
We're just reducing the stigma, Phil.
You gotta be okay to talk about it.
There you go.
All right, I like that.
Okay, if you'll then go back to that page that we skipped. So this is our total cost of risk summary. So each year we go through an exercise with usually a subset of the entire Lewis County General Hospital team. And we actually score a number of items which are all in the back. So the actual scores looks like this, and notes are in the back. And as things change over time, those scores hopefully build, right? So they become stronger, and then all of that comes into this summary. So I just want to highlight for you that things that are driving the changes, so you can see in the areas of board recruit and retain, we have a small increase. Employee focus, we have an increase, which is driving the total score up. So really the areas that we graded higher than they were previously based on feedback from the team surrounded around culture. We understand that there is a key player in the hospital, your COO, right? Who's really bringing a positive energy to the hospital, and is making some inroads and having a really positive impact. Another area where we've made some progress is around the wellness program. So in years past, the county and hospital have really struggled to get a solid participation in the biometric screenings. And the incentive really kind of zoomed in on the high deductible enrollees. So that was expanded this year. So the incentive was offered to folks in all 3 plans. And the participation numbers tripled in the biometric screening. So huge win, huge step forward. And we hope to build upon that in future years. There was also some sharing that the hospital is going to be conducting an employee survey this summer. So that's an area that we cover. So we improved the score there. So some good stuff happening, but you see we're still in the yellow, which means there's opportunity to continue to build on the successes that you've had. And that's what the plan kind of revolves around. Does that make sense? Okay, and all of those notes are in the back. You might have to put on special glasses to be able to read that, but they are there. So let me take you to the plan now.
And if anybody wants this email back to them, we could email the presentation as well.
Okay, so if you kind of open up your booklet. So Barbara, you want to do the first 2 strategic initiatives there?
Yeah, the top one is basically what we're doing here today is our strategic plan review. So I think this is our 8th review that we're doing with the group, which is great. The next one is our client experience review, and we do this once a year. We end up talking to someone at the hospital and at the county, and we survey them, and those results are shared with Larry, and whether it's positive or negative, that's how we learn. So that will definitely be coming. I think Eric was the last one who participated in that from the county.
Yeah, that's scheduled for December. We try to do that 6 months out from this meeting and ask for your candid feedback so that we can continually be improving as an organization.
If there's not enough half moons, Ryan, let me advise it to you. If you want to switch to that,
There is quite a drought there.
Would I?
If I would have made either of those 15-minute appointments that we set up.
And we're always going to include those 2 initiatives. So you can see those in every single annual review. So the next is a carryover from the previous plan, which is focused on collective bargaining support and education. So as your consultant, we can help to inform and educate the union negotiations and the membership if there's an interest in doing that. So we can come in as an unbiased party and show benchmarking and data utilization to really help move those negotiations along. So we still have contracts that are in negotiation, so that is here as in progress.
Which we have helped in the past.
Yeah.
Those meetings.
Yeah, I think, the meeting that we had, you're talking about the March 25th meeting.
Yeah.
I think that was quite impactful. I think we, opened some eyes. I mean, it wasn't overnight, but I think, the more we put out data and information and benchmarks, the more we're getting our point across. So.
Yeah, so we are here to support you in those endeavors in whatever way you need us, whether it be reporting or education, any of that. So we're going to continue that until those contracts get buttoned up. The next strategy is showing is complete. So we had initiated this last year. So the county engaged with a firm by the name of Remedy Analytics, who was brought in to do some really tearing apart of the pharmacy benefit manager, so your prescription drug contract. And they negotiate new terms in addition to kind of tearing apart that language and identifying areas for change that would improve the financial impact to the county down the road. So that project is complete, and you'll see in the notes that the new pharmacy terms negotiated with Excelis became effective October 1, 2021. The expected gross, because there is a fee that is paid to Remedy. Gross savings over a 2-year, 8-month period is just over $1.5 million. And then quarterly reports will be provided and presented to the group. We had our first one with Remedy, and we're ready to do a second one. So nice outcome there.
We were the first organization that worked with Remedy and Excelis client.
Exactly.
So Excelis is a big player in northern New York, and they weren't necessarily keen on a third party coming in and essentially auditing them to get a better deal for us.
Right.
But, I think these guys worked hard to get in the door with Excelis, and it paid off, and negotiate a better deal, so. And since then, other counties and other agencies have been working through Excelis, so.
The next one is an RDS reopening. So as a self-funded employer who is covering Medicare eligible retirees, you have the ability to pull down funds in a retiree drug subsidy from CMS. So we administer your RDS currently, and what the reopening does is it goes back in time, opens up those plan years, and looks for additional subsidies that can be drawn down. RDS administration is incredibly complex, so there's a lot of room for things to slip through. And it doesn't mean that anybody's doing a poor job on the administration side. It means that it is so complex, and the census is continually changing that sometimes monies get missed. So we have a firm by the name of RDS Services conducting a reopening on years 16, 17, 18, 19. And then in the middle of the project, we became eligible to reopen 2020. So we're going to button that up by the end of July of this year, and then we'll present the team with a final results report. Last time we did a reopening, we drew down another $88,000 in subsidies for the county. So we would expect something similar. The next speaks to the renewal in the budget development. This is something that we'll do every year. So for this current plan year, which just began June 1, the premium equivalents for the health plan were held flat in line with our partner or actuarial partner Milliman's projection. As Ryan said, we've got the health plan reserve balance to manage, right? So those decisions incorporate the management of that. The county decided on another premium holiday for this March, and we are bringing down that balance, as Ryan had said. Any questions so far? Okay. The next one is also an annual process. When we renew the stop loss insurance, it sits over the self-funded health plan. The county has had incredibly difficult claims experience for as long as I've been on this account. So we have a lot of high claimants, unfortunately, and I think that kind of supports the statement about the overall health of the county. So the renewal came in from Excelis at 23.5. We were able to negotiate that down just a bit, resulting in an annual savings of almost $16,500. The next one speaks to the dental insurance. I have this here as a new strategy because 2 years ago, we moved the hospital's dental from Excelis to the Guardian. Much better plan for better rates. Now we're in a position of having data that we can work with, so we'd like to do a self-funded analysis for the county on the dental. So that's why we're calling it new, because the self-funded piece would be new. But at any rate, we negotiated a fully insured renewal for June 1st. We're able to knock that renewal from 8.8% down to 4%, resulting in an annual savings of $10,500. And the county also made a decision to open up that dental plan to county union employees, which was new. It was really well received insofar as the open enrollment folks that participated in those open enrollment meetings, and I think we saw some nice migration there. Questions? Okay. I'm doing a lot of talking. Employee education. So we had not been able to come up and do group meetings for 2 years, so it was really nice to be back in April. The ongoing migration from the PPO to one of the other 2 plans is incredibly dependent upon continued education, right? Nobody's going to consider the other plans if they don't understand them and do an analysis. So we did 9 meetings. We had 41 folks attend. That's still really quite low. So I think we'll need some different strategies in order to improve that.
I think this is a key point for the governing board here. Big picture, we have a union negotiated plan that's been in place for many, many, many years. In 2016 or 17, right before I arrived, the county introduced 2 new plans. And the thought was the old plan was going to be so expensive that we needed a medium tier and a high deductible tier for other employees that don't think they need this high level, expensive level of insurance. We haven't been as successful as we would like, or as we would hope, getting folks to sign up for these new health plans. We've shared a lot of data with the union, and we have Susie here to meet with employees to show them the data that there's a lot of people that are on this expensive health plan and aren't getting the benefits that they're paying for. They don't need the amount of health care that they're paying a premium to receive. So I think, from a governance perspective, this is a pretty big initiative that we've been working on for a long time. And, we're open to ideas and input and direction on how we can get more employees to go to this training. Maybe we need to offer incentives. Maybe we need to, do a benefits fair or something that gets them out of the office, or maybe we have to make it mandatory. But we have to get folks to sit down and learn about the benefits packages that the county offers, because some of them are not being good consumers, and that's unfortunate. So
There's, I attended one of the sessions with Susie on your, when you broke out in hives. But
That wasn't really
That was
good.
because-
it wasn't me who caused it. It was amazing to me, there were only 3 or 5 employees here. And I'm sure you felt the same way, Susie, that not, me included, not one of us really understood how each plan works, what the savings were, and there were people in that meeting who said, oh, well, I have to be on the PPO because of X. And, when Susie would walk them or her through it, at least they started thinking about the possibility of something else. So we are falling down, I think, on the education part. I almost feel, Ryan, like it has to be mandatory, because we are not understanding all of those plans and the savings that an employee can make to take a little bit of a risk.
There's an inherent resistance to change too, right?
Yes, oh my gosh, yes.
Particularly with us old guys.
I'm not gonna comment on that, on the record.
Do you offer them virtually Zoom or like a online Q&A session that people can ask questions that maybe they don't want to ask?
Yeah, so this year we had in-person group meetings, there were 9 of them, so folks, could choose the date and time. And then we also offered an opportunity to do one-on-one meetings to ask those more personal questions, both in person or virtually. And only a handful of folks took advantage of them.
Are they recorded so that people can kind of come back and watch them at another time?
The Zoom ones were
Well, they
recorded.
have a handout, they've got a PowerPoint.
We
all
do
got
the
PowerPoint.
video, we do the benefits
Yeah,
video, everything's on video, the renewal.
In the past,
Yeah,
we had done videos past 2 years because we weren't able to come in person. Unfortunately, the viewership stats were
well,
very low.
I mean, we can just get the video and play it on loop to nauseam.
right, right.
I don't want to have to hear my voice like that.
I think it's just one of those things where we see the data, internally that shows how many employees are purchasing this level of insurance and then requiring this level of healthcare. And it's not matching up. It's costing the county too much money. It's costing them too much money. And we have to find a way to close that gap. And it is, I think, like Phil said, it's a general, this community is very risk averse, very risk averse. Well, what happens if I, got hit by a bus tomorrow? Well, okay, you're gonna pay $600 a month in case you get hit by a bus, or you could pay $400 a month, and if you get hit by a bus, you might have to pay $2,000 out of pocket. There's some thought process that needs to go into this, but we're not really breaking through with that message, I would say.
Would it be fair to say that the unions don't have buy-in on the other two?
100%,
So I
yes,
feel like until you have
Yeah.
buy-in from the union, you're not gonna,
correct.
all the education isn't gonna be doing.
I agree.
Doesn't need us being pessimistic.
Right.
Probably, so that's where we got to work on it. But anyway, I thought it was important to pause on for a minute because it's probably one of the most important workforce, issues that we're working on.
Right. And the reality of the matter is there are 3 really good choices available to county employees, right? But the right one for you is dependent upon your family situation. And if you don't come to the meeting to learn and understand, you can't make the best choice for you and your family.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay, the next one I spoke to a little bit already, and that was the health and wellness program. So the incentive for the biometric screenings was expanded to the greater population. That had a super positive impact. So we increased participation by almost 150%. And the next step will be for us to meet to review the aggregate data that those screenings show us, which also helps to develop future wellness programs and initiatives. So we're going to need to continue building on that success. And biometric screenings are win-wins, right? Like those tests arm the individual receiving the test with information that could truly save their life. And then the county receives the aggregate data to know, where do we have weakness, opportunity to develop programs. So it's such a good thing.
One thing we've talked about around wellness is the hiring of a joint county and health system wellness coordinator. Someone that would kind of work as a, adjacent to HR functions basically and coordinate employee wellness activities, employee wellness, initiatives of all kinds of different things, work with our health insurance provider. We've talked about it the last 2 budgets. Ultimately, we haven't put it in, but is that something you guys would like to hear more about? The only reason we would consider it is because our health insurance fund is doing quite well. So we wouldn't, we pay for it out of, from the health insurance premiums, not from tax dollars. But is that something that there's any appetite for, or looking for a little feedback on that?
Seems like a good idea to me. Yeah, it's gotta be explained to the people as best it can. The insurance itself is confusing as all get out. And I think that's a biggie that, like I said, there's only so many people had one-on-one, it's a bit of a personal thing, so one-on-one is good because it's all based on, well, what if.
Yeah, and really with it,
Greater, it's worth the money, it would save money in the long run.
Right, you could prevent one claim, you know what I mean, that you just pay for that for that 1 year.
The salary of that person is probably equal to the amount that our stop loss goes up every year.
Right.
and really, that kind of position can really grow in its scope and authority as a wellness program kind of blooms, right? Because they can be anything from an activities planner and like a rah-rah cheerleader to truly strategic wellness initiatives. So it can be whatever you want it to be as the program grows over time. And we can certainly support the development of that.
And it shows your employees that you care too, that you care about them and being connected to the hospital. I think it's a great thing to do.
Okay, the last two, this second to last one here is not new, but thought it was certainly worth reminding the team that this program is in place and is continually saving the county money, and that's your Canna RX International Pharmacy Program, right? So through Canna, folks on the health plan can purchase brand name only drugs through an international pharmacy. Okay, so those drugs are coming from Canada. They are significantly less than what is being charged in the United States for the same drug. Okay, so this is outside of your health plan. And then you pay Canada directly, monthly or whatever that frequency is. So we put a statistic in here that's pretty cool. Since its inception in February of 2005, the Canna RX program has saved the county $7.8 million in prescription drug costs. And that's with data through May. So it is not something that is promoted a lot, right? So that's an opportunity. If we were to promote it more, there'll be more utilization on it. But for the folks who are using it, it's saving a ton of money.
It's voluntary, so it's 100% voluntary. It's not mandated, so.
So why is that? Why can you buy drugs so much cheaper in Canada? And it's the same manufacturer.
It comes from the manufacturer direct. So my wife's on this plan and I'm on my wife's plan, so I'm on a service drug, Nexium, the purple pill, so it comes from France to my house for 90 days. It's the same pill. But in America, it goes through 10 different handling fees and everyone puts a tax, everyone puts a charge on that in America. It's a third of the cost.
10 different handling, what does that mean, 10 different handling?
It like
Has to go
gets
from
packaged one
distributor-
place, it gets,
Correct.
sold to one pharmacy, then the pharmacy sells it to you in different packaging, like it just.
Right, so there are multiple links in the chain, if you will, in the United States for pharmacy. And each one of those links adds a margin.
Okay, so I'm still having a hard time understanding what those links are. Goes from the manufacturer to a distributor to a dealer.
So it's gonna go, so there's the PBM, so your pharmacy benefit manager through Excelis is ESI. Right, so ESI is gonna negotiate with drug manufacturers. Then ESI is gonna contract with each individual pharmacy, right? And the pharmacy is gonna so there's just multiple levels, and I'm sorry, I can't lay that out clearly. We could follow up on
And even
that.
even if you pick it up at a drugstore, they're still adding
They're single payer, so the government is negotiating one price
So-
for all of that prescription. There's only one negotiator, take it or leave it in those other countries.
correct.
Here, that Nexium producer has to negotiate with Excel, every single, healthcare provider, Excellus, and then Penny Drugs, and then everybody else.
The US is really subsidizing the pharmaceutical R&D for the rest of the world. We're the last man holding the bag. It's a broken system, but this is a great end run around it for your employees.
In the brand, there's only like 42 employees on this a month, so 42 scripts are written, brand scripts are written a month for the county. And you can see the money you're saving on those 42. This past month was $26,000 you saved in 1 month
On just 42 people.
on 42 scripts.
And they all avoided the copay if they bought it.
Right, so if you buy a brand with CanRx, they don't charge the brand, the copays. So those people that are buying the brand, they're not even paying a copay.
Is there some education to do on that to try and transition other people over?
Yeah.
We used to have CanRx mouse pads and all kind, I feel like there used to be stuff sent, I haven't seen anything in a long time.
You can't make it mandatory.
Notepads and whatever.
Yeah, it's 100% voluntary. And they're not into the specialty market yet. And we hear they might be getting into the specialty drugs market, but right now they're just brand.
It's outside of your health plan.
Correct.
So these people are not using the Lewis County Health Plan to fill that prescription. The county's still paying for the drug, but it's through Canada.
They get a, in their orientation packet, they get
Some information on it.
you're a 20-year employee, that's like an orientation packet.
Right.
Well, we could identify how many people are still eligible that are on the brand
Oh,
and
yeah,
target program.
absolutely.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got that here as an initiative. Employees will be reminded of the availability of the program. And then the last here is our GKG University course around strategic risk. So Larry, do you want to describe that?
Sure, so we've taught in the 7th year a strategic risk management program. And the concept is helping people at the county or the hospital that are involved in managing risk for employee health and safety. It's a 9-month course, and when they leave, they will have a capstone project specific to the employer on that. So it's become all virtual, and certainly welcome anybody in the hospital. Had somebody go through.
Yeah, Randy,
Several
3
years
years,
ago.
3 years ago, Randy did from the hospital.
So we'll be announcing that kickoff relatively soon. We'll start in October.
Okay, so that's the plan. Anything like missing or that you want to say we can't get to that this year or?
I think one thing worth noting is that we passed a policy in 2019. The board passed a resolution saying that from henceforth, we will make changes to the premium, which the employer has the right to do. The Board of Legislators has the right to change the premium amounts for each of our plans. We will do that only based on advice from our actuaries. There have been some gamesmanship in the past, I think, amongst the board and administration, and we got some of our premiums a little bit out of whack. Since, we passed that resolution to really focus on actuarial data and driving the cost from that, I think that was a good change and has helped us keep things stable for the last few years.
And that's Milliman. Milliman's the top actuarial firm in the country, and that's who's on your plan.
Okay, so this is a living, breathing plan, right? If 6 months from now, something is dramatically different, we can build, we can delete, so, we want it to be a living thing. So the rest of the material here, there's a timeline in the back, which kind of sets to lay out how we're gonna tackle these things throughout the course of the year. And then there's an addendum which has a whole bunch of good information in it to include the total cost of risk notes. So I won't get into all of that detail, but certainly if you look over it and you have questions, just give Robert or I a holler. But we super appreciate your time and the opportunity to be your partner. And we thank you for spending time with us today. Questions, comments, thoughts?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. There you go. Thanks for your time. Make sure the wellness treats get eaten.
We did bring treats from the other meetings too, remember?
Yes.
The attendance was still low, so we tried.
Poor Susie had to eat all of those.
Oh, come on, maybe that's what I got. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
See you later.
See everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
Is that everything?
17 minutes. You know me. I do it. Yeah, I hope we get it off the street. Not optimistic, but
Okay, we're right.
I actually wrote some.
So much
We did,
Friday.
yeah, absolute speakers.
But- Probably will be 3 weeks, and he said no golf for a month, so I'm guessing no golf for us.
I would say you better get one, they're just sitting here like, like, how many more of these am I gonna eat?
First, a motion to approve the May 17th, 2022 Health and Human Service Committee minutes. Yeah, second? Nick? Okay, presentations. We have Pat here to talk about the medication assisted treatment program. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Very long?
No.
Right?
You don't want to talk about capital improvement?
I'll be winging it.
Well, you do,
Oh,
you
Brian
do
wants
good
to.
job.
Oh, I'll go back and double check. Yes, that's me.
All right, sorry about that.
Thank you. So, Ryan asked me to present and update you on two programs, or two initiatives that have been going on in the county. The first is the medication assisted treatment program that will be going into the jail. And then the opiate settlement funds, we've been in the lawsuit since 2020, I believe. So, anyway, start with the medication assisted treatment. And essentially, I wanted to give you a little background as to what got us here. So you're looking at a couple of quotes, or one quote. Overdose is common and preventable cause of death following release from incarceration. Investing in alternatives to incarcerations, providing continuous coordinated care to those that are incarcerated, especially those with co-occurring mental illness and substance use disorder, will only reduce the overdose deaths, but will also improve public health, improve public safety, reduce healthcare and criminal justice system costs. So in regards to the inmates that are in correctional facilities or jails across the country, large portion of them are sitting there because they have mental health issues or substance abuse problem, and then got connected with, or poorly connected with the police system. And that is one of the things that, as a result of the fact that the opportunities to get people and keep them to treatment are less for us. So in 2021, the governor signed into legislation requiring New York State correctional facilities and county jails to offer medication-assisted treatment to those individuals with opioid use disorders. All right. In addition to those kind of high points or indications, these are statistics I found on the internet. Shows that 75% of re-entrants diagnosed with an OUD is not connected to medication for opiate use disorder and have relapsed in opioid use within 3 months of release. 40-50% of re-entrants with OUD are arrested for a new crime within a year. Re-entrants with OUD are 20 to 40 times more likely to have a fatal opioid overdose compared to the general public. That is especially a danger within the first few weeks that they've been released. And again, the first 2 weeks following incarceration are associated with a 129-fold increase in overdose risk relative to the general population. And essentially what you have somebody that's been incarcerated and clean and sober for that time. They come out of the facility and they know what they were using when they got into the facility. And they will resume using that amount, and that will cause the overdose because they just kind of thought they could go right to the races. So what you're really looking at, and again, I first saw this legislation or these proposals in the fall, is you're really looking at putting a miniature opioid treatment program within the jail system. So there's been a lot of controversy about that across the state because what we've been aware of is obviously all jails are different, correctional facilities are different, and the expectation of this is quite significant. So when you are coming into the jail, the expectation is that you'll be screened for an opioid use disorder. That screening will indicate whether you have it or whether you don't, and if you do have it, you're offered an opportunity to be in this program. You can do that upon entry into the system, or you can do that at any time that you're incarcerated. In the event somebody has been identified coming in, the jail staff would be obviously screening that, making the clinical staff aware that this person is eligible. And then it would go into contacting, if the person was already getting medication-assisted treatment, contacting that facility, verifying that, and getting the medication. And then while they're there, post-admission, they'd be receiving their medication and attending group and individual counseling, and discharge planning in regard to this very important aspect of this. So it's a big thing. The components, to simply break them down, is you've got the medication, the group and individual counseling, and I do want to tell you, currently in our jail, we have Northern Regional Center for Independent Living that goes in there now, provides peer services. Behavioral Health and Wellness comes in there and provides one-on-one counseling for our inmates per their request. And then Cradle Community Center does come in and follow people that they had in their program, and continue to support them while they're incarcerated. So that's currently what's going on.
Is SHRF openly embracing this program?
Who?
The SHRF.
Why don't I answer that? The law requires that this program be put in place by October
7th.
And we will have it in place. The sheriff supports following the law.
Yes, absolutely. And that we did kind of see a shift within the law enforcement population when it became a law, because that's kind of the mindset. It's a law, they gotta obey it. So anyway, thank you. So, I talked about group and individual counseling, peer support, discharge planning, and reentry and transitional supports. The expectation is that whatever entity is going in to provide these program aspects are coordinating with your community and ensuring that if you weren't connected before, that you're connected when you leave, with the idea that by having everything in place before you leave, you're less likely to suffer an overdose, have a relapse, or reoffend. Just an example of 3 of the medication-assisted treatment medications that will be an option to the inmates is you've got buprenorphine. Typically, in regards to buprenorphine, you can get it in a syringe, you can get it in a pill, and you can get it in a film. Most of the treatment providers that I'm aware of use a film aspect of it. So the film goes in your mouth, and you have to sit there and wait until it dissolves. And that usually takes between 10 and 15 minutes. Vivitrol is another medication-assisted treatment, which is a shot. This has not been very popular with those that are incarcerated because they don't want to have the Vivitrol in their system, which is long-acting medication, because when and if they do get released and they want to go get high, it won't happen. And it's also extremely costly. I want to say it's like over $1,000 for 1 month's supply, 1 shot. Some of the facilities that are offering that did get in, working with like a grant to be able to introduce it to the population, but it really hasn't taken hold. And then you may have heard over a long time methadone, which is a liquid medication, and methadone prior to changes in our law was only available in federally licensed clinics to be able to provide that. It is a daily dose. There is procedures in regards to the administration of that. And I guess I do want to talk a little bit about that. One of the things that is an outcome of offering these medications is the risk of diversion, meaning that the person that's intended to get the medication isn't consuming it themselves, but they're using it as a form of currency or exchange in regards to whatever it is that they want to get. So part of the administration of this is ensuring that you have solid, consistent procedures that reduces the ability of the person taking it to be able to cheek it or take it aside, and then obviously give that medication to somebody else. One of the other components to check on a person is drug testing. So, essentially the expectation, if you're supposed to take it, you're taking it, and they do drug testing, it should be in your system. So that's just kind of another form of trying to find somebody, whether or not they're being compliant or not.
So methadone is not available, or not can't be distributed in Lewis County and they have to go to Jefferson County?
Okay, no, so very good question. So essentially, the ultimate tasks prior to October 7th is that we will be issuing an RFP to solicit a program that will be able to bring this medication to the jail, and that includes the methadone.
Well, I'm thinking not only the jail, but I've heard that, there's a population that has to be transported to Jefferson County to get
Yes,
the methadone or whatever it is.
and yes, that is true.
Will this give us the ability to distribute it in Lewis County so we don't have this transportation
No.
issue?
No, the only place that methadone will be distributed is actually in the jail to inmates. At this point in time, although I've been in conversations with Credo because just what the concern that you said, is it looks like they're trying to do two things. Either get methadone on a mobile vehicle that has been given an okay to be able to do that, or to be able to have Credo have a satellite that allows them to distribute that. And again, when you talk about methadone and the federal guidelines, it's just kind of a bear to navigate, and they're not very flexible. And they kind of do what they want and whatnot. As a matter of fact, I believe it's the DEA that manages them, the methadone, and they've not necessarily been very helpful in New York State in the development of procedures and whatnot to help, facilities be able to give it out.
Do you think it's overregulated?
Yes. I mean, I guess this is where we're going by carving out the methadone and making it so difficult, doesn't help the process. But I think the other thing that I didn't talk about is that buprenorphine requires a physician to be waivered. So that, I think it's like, it used to be a day training, and I believe it's down to an hour training. So it's specialty training, and it started out with just physicians. They expanded that to nurse practitioners and physician's assistants. But again, it just seems like there's different regulations for different sections of it. And when you have different stuff, it's just difficult to have a program or policy and procedures because there's a different flavor or responsibility for each of them.
Is methadone only effective or replace heroin, or is it for all?
All opioids, yes, but it's primarily for those that are using heroin. But again, thinking about the delivery of this and ensuring that the medication that's brought in there responsibly doesn't become contraband is a big responsibility for the officers there and for obviously any program staff that's going to go in there. So like in regards to each of those, buprenorphine, the film, it goes from, the nurse does an exam, she puts it in the mouth, she checks the mouth to make sure it's in the right place, and then the inmate has to sit for 10 or 15 minutes. And literally, I've seen thousands of procedures where they've got to be, the inmates have to be farther away from each other than arm's length. And then you've got a staff person that has to watch them until 15 minutes goes by. The Vivitrol is obviously shot. Methadone is liquid. So in regards to the administration of methadone, involves a glass of water, given the medication, and I think a cracker, but they don't have to be absorbed for more than a minute or two. So that's a very staff labor-intensive process.
So why is it highly regarded as does it replace the high of opioids? What makes it so valuable contraband-wise if it just blocks your need or your?
So, because, all right, for a couple of reasons. So there's the technical aspect of how these medications work is you've got what you call partial agonist and full agonist. And essentially, the partial agonist gets on the receptors, and I don't know why it's partial. I didn't here for this part. And then the full,
Oh, God.
the full agonists.
RN sitting next to you.
No, I'm Leonard.
Full
It can be, I
agonists.
would just say it can be misused and it can give people who are not prescribed it, it can give them a high if they're not using it appropriately. But I was enjoying going down the pharmacology, so if you want to keep going down that route, you can.
I gotta get off this road. Anyway. But the other thing too is, like, say, for example, if you're not connected to treatment and, when buprenorphine came out or methadone came out, you're trying to manage your withdrawal all by yourself. So that's why it has street value. So it is like, I wanna, for whatever reason, I'm gonna try to get sober, but I don't wanna go to a treatment facility. I'm gonna buy this off the street. Or I can't get into a methadone clinic. I mean, until Credo started putting on methadone, the people either had to go to Syracuse or they had to go up, I wanna say Plattsburgh. So, I mean, that's
huge.
every day.
That's huge.
It's huge, and it is every day until you can, develop some trust with your provider, where they might give you a take-home dose for one day or a holiday. But the expectation for this will be is that it would be 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I believe that the administration is once a day.
Is it for forever? You have to take this stuff forever?
The recommendations is that it really is on a case-to-case basis. Those that take methadone tend to be on it for a very, very long time, as well as the buprenorphine. It just really depends on the circumstances that you are involved. You're recommended, if you're connected to some agency and getting this, that you're also involved in counseling as well. All right.
Sorry for the diversion.
Oh, you made me work.
I want to learn more about the antagonist.
Yeah, I know.
Partial
Yeah.
antagonists.
Oh my God, partial. I pulled that.
Yeah, we can put a PowerPoint together next month. For that.
Great.
With like chemistry.
It'd be just as exciting as our health insurance.
All right, so the medication is, like I said, medication is distributed 7 days a week or is indicated that way. Administered by a nurse, and as I've been supporting the jail in this, I've been speaking with other staff that are doing it already, regardless of the law. They've got it in place for them. Everybody 100% were administered, mostly by a registered nurse. I have been made aware that a licensed practical nurse can also administer that. And I'm trying to get an answer on whether or not how the being in a jail impacts their scope of practice.
The state there's been some conversations about whether a corrections officer can administer, and the state NYSCOBA union has fought against that. And early indications are that our corrections officers would fight against it as well. They don't believe distributing medication is in their job description.
They don't distribute any other medications, right?
Yes,
they do.
Oh, they do.
But this in particular,
Yeah, I asked other, again, they're not mandated, so right now they can do, whatever it is. And there was absolutely 100% that I spoke to said that it should not be administered by a correction officer.
we met with a woman from the Department of Corrections, and she said that it's not a best practice. The reason that matters is because, as Pat's gonna get into here, this changes our staffing model.
Can you speak to what medications correctional officers give out now?
The jail nurse right now is only a 35-hour-a-week person, and no holidays. So any meds.
Prescription.
Yep, yes.
Oh, okay.
Probably nothing narcotic, that would be considered scheduled narcotic, like these are.
So like antibiotics, the ones for medical conditions, because they do have access to Dr. Rosner, who's a jail physician, and then Dr. Fogelman, who's a psychiatrist, with prescribing it. I do understand that very rarely or infrequently there might be a controlled substance, and I believe that their process is that they actually blend it up to help make sure it gets taken. But that would be on holidays and when the jail nurse isn't there.
So they might give other psychiatric medications.
But my understanding is, from when I've had conversations with the jail staff, is that there's not a lot of fluff in regards to medication. It's just absolutely necessary before it be ordered for the inmate to take. So, it's really, like I said, can easily become contraband or diverted. So you've got, procedures or policies to ensure that the medication isn't cheap. Let's see, and again, I talked a little bit about the steps that are in place. And then again, I think that probably the most labor intensive is the buprenorphine as the Mississippi being served by staff, 5 for 10 to 15 minutes. Current status of this is, like I said, it's been myself gathering information from jails across the state that are currently have been doing it and are, obviously will be grandfathered in when this law goes into effect. The jail staff has also been in contact with other facilities and their connections to talk about it. So it goes from the steps and the expectations to the development of policies and procedures and the development of the RFP to solicit an agency to provide the medications and clinical programs in the jail. The expected start date is October 7th. Any questions about where we're at with this?
Am I right in saying that we are not giving any New York State funds for this mandate?
Oh my goodness, so that's a good question.
Thank you.
So right now, several years ago, they found each county got a certain amount of dollars that currently goes to the jail. And I think at this point in time, their goal is it's $64,000. So that $64,000 is going to Credo. They've just been doing services ongoing. We got an extra $42,000, and so we're at 101 with the idea that this was coming down the pipe. I can confidently tell you that $101,000 is not going to cover this. Medications costs are very prohibitive.
Oh, you have to purchase medicines also?
Anyone in our jail, any incarcerated individual is 100% medical expenditures on the county. No Medicaid, no Medicare, no private insurance, just us. So you've got Credo or whoever wins the RFP will have a contract amount in order to provide the service and the counseling and everything that goes with it. We'll have the cost of the medication itself, and then we're gonna have personnel costs because we're gonna have to have some level of jail nurse every day, not just 35 hours. And apparently, watching folks for 15 minutes at a time, depending on the shift and depending, how many folks we have, we may need additional correctional resources as well.
Pat, do we have any statistics on how many inmates, if they've looked at it or if you've looked at it, actually would be eligible under this program?
So I can speak that they have been kind of informally tracking it. And I can tell you that the other day, and I forget how many inmates they had because the inmate count was higher, they would have had 6 inmates that would have been eligible.
Because I think their average, I don't know if it was this year, but a few years ago, the average number of inmates on any given day was about 28 or 26 or something like that.
All of them, the total number in there, and then
Yeah.
The woman from Department of Corrections said that the facilities that have voluntarily adopted this ahead of the state deadline, and the facilities that they've seen no more than 20% is the highest they've seen. So if we have,
So that's
on
about,
average, I think Joan's right, I was gonna say, 25 to 30 on average, 20% would be 4 to 6. So I think, 4 to 5 is what we could probably expect.
so the other thing to be thinking of as well is the fact that because this is an opportunity for somebody with a substance use disorder, you're gonna have people that probably weren't on it before that are gonna be asked to be screened. because they will just.
Well, that's my other question. Who's doing the eligibility screening and what are they looking for?
Okay, so essentially, in addition to the medical that gets done on everybody, there is several screenings, because the other thing we have not talked about is detoxification. So anyway, they're looking at a screening for opioid use disorder, just a screening for alcohol, and any other substances. So the things I've seen other jails do is that once those screenings are done, then they're done so that you can calculate the outcome. So you got a score here, if you score this enough, you're in this pile, or you didn't score enough and you're over here.
Done by,
Well, that would be the other thing that is going to be complicated. So in addition to this medication-assisted treatment, which is just responding to somebody that has an opioid use disorder, the expectation is that a facility is going to be expected to be able to screen somebody on admission. I understand you get admissions, I should say. Well, it is an admission, 24/7. There's no, schedule for that. They also have to be screened for withdrawal. And the expectation is that there will be a response to that. So again, screening. These people are obviously in severe withdrawal and need to be managed in the hospital, or that person needs to have medication starting now to manage the withdrawal in the jail. So I have not seen any policies from a jail comparable in our size. So I have no idea what the average is that they're getting inmates, or how many people might need detox medication. So that's another outlier that we've got to be thinking about in regards to.
I think the devil's gonna be in the details of some of this stuff, upon admission, what does that mean? Right away, does it mean 24 hours, 48 hours? I mean, it could be Christmas Eve, we could have some new person be entering our jail. I mean, for us to be able to provide medical screening 24/7 is unrealistic for a small jail. So we're waiting on, I think some of the guidance is still forthcoming from the state. So.
Yeah, and I think too, it's, I was just thinking of other alternatives to work with our thing. Is it somebody I call? Do you have the person I call? You got a nurse I call? And you give them, a stipend or whatever's the difference. I mean, when I asked Lieutenant Thayer how much a correction officer makes, I had no idea, but I didn't know. I'm thinking, I got somebody that's making whatever an hour, which seemed pretty hefty. Is it better to ask for an LPN, who I know is half that? But I think too, the other thing that's problematic is, attracting somebody. I know that it took the jail a long time to get the registered nurse they have now. So, attracting and retaining somebody. I mean, I think that there's opportunities to be flexible and creative to be able to manage that.
For most places.
So the goal is to put out the RFP, see who we'll be working with, and then start unfolding some of those details once we kind of have an idea which vendor will be working with. Is that fair to say, Pat? Because there's a lot of, as you can tell, the devil's in the details with this. So I think we need to take one step at a time, find our partner first, and then start figuring out, the scheduling issues that we're going to need and the personnel additions that we're going to need, and we could plan those for the 2023 budget probably.
Would it be possible for, say, someone in the hospital to fulfill these duties so that they could just jump out of the jail, hand out the meds, go back to the hospital?
I don't know what possibility.
Wrong possibility.
Probably not, from what I understand of the hospital staffing issues, but the fact that we have a county hospital with multiple county employees that are already registered nurses means that we've got a good pool to draw from if anybody wanted to do an on-call type situation. I think that would be, puts us in a more advantageous situation.
As was noted earlier, we had a very hard time finding the nurse we got up there right now.
Correct.
So there's not a lot of people at the door knocking for this job.
But could this be just a part-time job? Like if they just got to administer that, could it be like an hour a day?
That's
2 hours a day?
I'd say 2 hours a day.
So if we had somebody that was a nurse that worked maybe a night shift up there or something like that and wanted to pick up a gig for 2 hours a day for some extra spending money?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the type of scenario that we're hoping for, rather than having to add another full-time medical professional. I'm less concerned about getting that nurse coverage because we do have a good bank of county employees that are already nurses. I'm more concerned about the corrections side and this idea of having to monitor every person individually that's under medication and monitoring, the additional counseling and the screening. I think we'll probably end up, well, hopefully not, but I think we'll end up probably creating 1 or 2 correction positions out of this. I don't know.
Are any jails going the route of having a mobile clinic come or taking their inmates somewhere?
So yes, what I saw is it was almost like it was an a la carte. So like some jails had, this was being done by this agency, this was being done by that agency, depending on what their local resources were. And I talked to Joan about the flexibility of when the RFP is issued, is to be able to bid on certain things that allows that. So I can tell you that Crater Community Center was actually awarded the mobile unit. And since they said, yes, that's a great idea, somebody's put out regulations that made it cost prohibitive. I mean, you couldn't afford it because of what they tied staff to. So they just said, sorry, thanks, but no thanks. But obviously the intent was just what you were talking about, is an opportunity to get this stuff mobilized. Right now in Jefferson County, I do believe that on weekends and holidays, they are actually taking the inmates to Syracuse. Because Crater was not at that time 7 days a week with holidays. So it really is a crapshoot depending on what you have available, who's willing to do it, and then what resources that you have available. But I want to say that we talked with Crater about doing something temporarily in the jail in case something bad happened. And it really kind of talked about a correction officer and a nurse driving to Watertown, because you gotta have 2 staff, you gotta have the process to pick up the medication, the keys to the box, and transport it to the jail for distribution. I mean, it's a lot of moving parts to try to organize.
If we drop this RFP, are there agencies out there that will respond to it, do you think?
I believe so. And actually, be kind of curious, because in addition to the county jails doing this, the New York State correctional facilities are doing that. And they have actually gotten to the point where I believe that they're dealing with a national company. But you think about it, how many jails do we, correctional facilities that we have close by? I mean, it would be advantageous to make it worth their travel, to be able to provide medication. So I'm kind of curious. We obviously created a community center. There's 2 agencies in Oneida County that are doing it. And then obviously Syracuse as well. So it would be interesting to see who's going to participate. I did get the other names of these, these big companies that are doing it, and certainly I'll send it to them to contact just for the back of it. Well, we have choice, we just want to have choices, and we certainly want to, help somebody with it. If we can get on to somebody that overhead is a lot less because they're doing so much of it. I mean, that's beneficial to us, to have that service here. Anyway.
One last thing, I should have too fine a point on it, but at the end of the day, this will be offering a service to people who have, mental health disorder, who have addiction, and hopefully this will help them, back into society and get them off these drugs that they've been addicted to. So it will cost a lot, but it's worth it. The data says it's worth it, so.
Well, how can you re-enter society and be productive if you have to spend 3 hours a day driving to Watertown to get to that?
You'd be surprised at how many people.
You would?
Yes.
It's challenging. I mean, if that's your day, I mean, especially when you have to go to Syracuse, how do you get gainful employment? How do you take care of your family, your kids on the school bus? But yes, I think that, as Lisa said, by having somebody stable, getting them so that when they walk out the building, they have their head on straight, and that they're immediately connected with the supports that they need. It certainly should help people. And, get our goal of, making better lives for people. All right, I don't have time to go through this. All right, so now we're gonna talk about the opiate settlement dollars. So, as you know, Lewis County joined the class action suit against the pharmaceutical companies in 2020. The lawsuits allege that opioid manufacturers caused the opioid crisis through deceptive marketing, practices misrepresenting the risk of opioids, and touting the benefits, and telling everybody it was a good thing. So several drug makers and distributors have agreed to billions in settlement dollars. Now, over the next 16 years, the county will receive roughly $872,000, which breaks out to be $54,000 annually. No, I don't, no. It's just, and again, and the sums, as I was talking to Joan, even in the short time, it's still a moving target in regards to what's going on at the state level. That's what we're going to that. So, however, talking about the flow of funds, in 2022, the county received what they call accelerated payments. We will also receive one-time payments from other pharmaceutical companies. And again, the law firm that we've been dealing with, that is the bridge between the Office of the Inspector General, the counties, we've been made aware that the timing and amount of payments are a best estimate by the law firm and may change due to costs and fees associated with the settlement fund and may result in small reduction in payments. So these funds are all fall under either restricted or unrestricted. Restricted funds must be used as outlined in the guidance documents, of which I'm in possession of 2. There is a pot of money that, for whatever reason, is going to be managed by the New York State Office of Addiction Services and Support, and they're called state abatement funds. And we've not seen any communication from OASIS as to what their intent in regards to the use or keeping track of these funds. And we still haven't heard from OASIS on the jail program either, but it's just understood. Estimates of funds the county can expect to receive in 2022 is $212,000. We've actually, I want to say, have had 2 deposits since April 2022. And I did clarify that the funds do not need to be used in the year that we receive them. So after the accelerated payments, the county will receive, so this is one pot of money, and they call it the distributor's settlement, and this is actually 3 pharmaceutical companies, and they call it distributor. So after the accelerated payments, the county will receive the balance in 15 annual payments beginning in 2023 for a total of $271,000. The annual payments range from $12,000 to $17,000. The next is the Janssen settlement. After our accelerated payments from them, we will receive the balance in 6 annual payments beginning in 2025 for a total of $62,000. And the annual payments range from $2,200 to $2,900. And now these are the state abatement funds that are charged by OASIS. We're still waiting on guidance or any information. I can tell you that the deposits that we got to date, they weren't in them, they weren't included. But they do also have to be used for approved programming. And the estimated total payment is $447,000 over the course of 16 years. So as I was talking to you about is how we can use these. And again, the areas that are identified with, certainly they gave some examples, but opioid use disorder treatment, support for people in treatment and recovery, ways to keep people connected to care, the needs of the criminal justice or the pregnant person, OUD and overdose prevention, overdose prevention, the prevention of misuse of opioids and other strategies. The unrestricted funds we can use pretty much anyway. And obviously they're a small blanket. So for planning considerations, I just want everybody to be aware that when I say we, the state keeps getting flooded with federal dollars that are tied to opioid use. And it's just, again, continuing to come out fast and furious. For example, I just talked about the opioid mobile units. Again, it just seems like we call it stupid money coming in. They offer it out to people for programs to be able to enhance the services that you do for people. We've been kind of feel that it will continue for a year or two before those funds dry out. The Columbia University study will be wrapping up in 2023. The project management staff for FDR HBO is looking at the success of the implemented initiatives that we started and what it would look like for sustainability options. And again, this was an opportunity that did quite a bit for our county. And then obviously the funds would come in to be able to continue those. The drug-free community grant that was being managed by Mountain View and the Coalition is ending in September of 2022. And while they applied for the round 2, they did not get approved. And they do plan to reapply at the next junction, which will be 2023. OASIS is not, again, I keep complaining about OASIS, guidance is a big issue with me apparently. And then according to the documents, there are other funds and there will be opportunities for us to apply for additional dollars from the opioid settlement. But again, no details are out there. Projects currently in place, we had efforts reducing stigma using media campaigns and activities in the county, increasing the waiver. I talked about the clinical staff for the prescribing of Suboxone, providing opportunities for residents to dispose of prescriptions, such as the drug take-back days, and these things called deteriorate bags, where you put the medications in them and it destroys them. There's a care manager in the hospital emergency room. Obviously, we have the medication-assisted treatment that's going to be happening in the jail, and then increased utilization of peers via the OD mapping and peer RX program. So those are the things that are currently going on that our funds will be drying up for. Any questions?
Our decision then to go with the lawsuit appears to be a bit.
Yes.
I know there was some discussion, not maybe about us, but about some of the other counties, so maybe we should.
Oh my goodness.
That was my first meeting in 2017. You guys were debating that.
Yeah.
And what did you think? Just doing it?
I'm not an elected official to weigh in on policy decisions.
Oh, no, he just drives it.
All set?
Thanks, man.
All right.
Thanks, Pat.
And I'll start up on that other stuff.
Don't come in unless you have a full organic chemistry lesson.
One more thing before we move on to dockets. There's been a lot of media attention about Jefferson County placing homeless individuals at the Pleasant Night Inn. Lewis County does happen to have some homeless population that we also place there. None of the individuals that have been spoken about recently. I don't know if Jenny, you wanted to say anything on?
Well, the Department of Social Services is mandated to place homeless people. Many of them are the same population that Pat just spoke about, coming out of jail or coming out of prison. And they have a plethora of issues related to that. Some are sex offenders, and they've served their prison time. And they come to us directly from docks. They come to our lobby. We do now get advance notice that they're coming. We've used the Pleasant Night Inn for a number of years. So if Brian remembers, probably just prior to the pandemic, West Carthage was not happy with Lewis County DSS. We had a sex offender in the hotel as well. I would be cautious to say that we should remember that not every sex offender is a pedophile, right? There's other classifications of what happens. We tend to use the Pleasant Night Inn because oddly enough, it's on the Lewis County Public Transit System because of the JCC run, right? So we can get people back here that are homeless into Lewis County so they can job search, be their temporary assistance worker, go to treatment, go to medical care and everything that's currently established here in Lewis County. So we also received the same letter that the owner of Pleasant Night Inn put out on social media. So we will be searching for places to put disruptive individuals, and yes, we've had disruptive individuals there. Does that mean we knew they were disruptive when we placed them? Not necessarily. And sex offenders. So that's likely going to lead us to the Utica and Rome area or Syracuse in order to place people. So they will be out of our common area. We will have to transport them to and from and secure locations. So think about that, as they're that far away from our community, to bring them back as often as necessary to do things like treatment, job search, medical care. So I anticipate it'll be a little challenging at times. Also, specifically in the middle of the night, our on-call staff gets called frequently about a homeless individual and needing to put them up, especially when it's cold. The rules change when it's cold out and we have to house everybody, whether they would meet our criteria for public assistance or not. So our on-call workers are going to have to add questions to our screening tool that we do that will include, are you a registered sex offender? Or be trying to look them up on the sex offender registry. Because in the middle of the night, you don't always know that because they likely have been in the community already. And then depending on where we can secure a hotel, that on-call worker will likely have to leave the county with a sex offender in their car and drive them to that location. Now getting them back on a regular basis, we have a contract with BTC. We all know that takes at least 3 days' notice in order to try to arrange drivers to get people back and forth. So we will do that. We have had in the last winter, we ended up, due to the number of homeless people in both Jefferson and Lewis, it kind of flooded the hotels last year. We ended up with people down in Rome and in Utica as well. So we have worked with a few organizations, a few locations down there. I knew in conversations with Teresa Gaffney, the Commissioner of Jefferson County, I had made some suggestions and they currently have some people in Rome and Utica as well right now. So it's going to create more work. Obviously, homelessness is a big problem. I heard Pat talk about screening tools when they enter jail. We have to do the same screenings at DSS when they appear homeless. We now have to institute medical screenings, drug abuse screenings, domestic violence screenings, and other activities to make sure we're connecting them to the appropriate community-based services. All in all, so I went back over the last year, and I will tell you that in the last year, we did not have a sex offender at the Pleasant Night Inn. The year before, we had a few. Prior to the pandemic, we had several. So it's almost based on when their release date is and when they're coming out of prison. We work well with Carrie Turner. She is the parole officer assigned to Lewis County. We work well with her about whether people are doing what they need to do for public assistance in order to keep their housing, in order to be safe. One of the issues I would tell you is that sex offenders take a very long time to find permanent housing. This is a very small community. Everybody gets on that sex offender registry, or they knew them growing up, right? I mean, this is a local community. And, for them to find an apartment is very difficult. One, the finances part, but two, the location and where you can be, can't be close to school or things like that. Some of you might remember, we used to have a homeless apartment on Diane Street that did not meet the sex offender, the SORA guidelines. It was too close to Level Academy. We could not put one there, so we had to put them in another hotel at that time. So that's about it. It's gonna be more work. I'm a little worried about what we're gonna do in the middle of the night, about transportation and getting people further away. And then how do we stay connected with them to make sure, one, that they're meeting the criteria, doing what they need to do, and not causing disruptions in another county.
You know, a lot of times when we get that call in the middle of the night, Jenny's folks don't have as much information as the police do. If, you know, say we pick somebody up or, you know, we place on Pleasant Night and that person gets into some type of altercation, you know, the police chief, who's clearly sharing information with the mayor, has more information about those individuals than we did when we placed them there. I mean, that's the reality is, you know, we don't necessarily know. We can't look up their police records and everything.
We don't have access to that.
Yeah, we don't have access to that, so it was
The
a
police
bit of an
work with us
unfair.
well, the local police and the sheriff and the state police. A lot of times they're gonna come upon someone that's homeless. Maybe there's a domestic incident, someone's gotta be separated from the home or however. The police will tell us if they know, about that individual. I will tell you, if you looked at our list, it's many of the same people cycling through. So we do know their history, but it's a difficult call. We do use the Edge Hotel in Lions Falls for some homeless people and the Ridgeview Inn. Those are both locally owned, and I'll give you an example of the Ridgeview Inn. When we call to place someone, they have to call the owner and say, can this person stay here? Their desk staff. They know names, he teaches here. Sometimes they'll let some of our homeless people stay and other times not. Good example, this weekend, they were rather full. It's a good season to get the wheelers out and go riding. So we had to move people out of the Ridgeview for the weekend and take them someplace else because they were full. We kind of play this game of moving and matching almost every day. Any other questions? I mean, it's kind of it's a tough issue. And it's tough for our staff to try to figure out, where do I go next? What do I do?
Is Jefferson County having the same issues as we are?
Probably worse, yeah, even worse. Their volume of homelessness is much higher. And in the last year, there's been a fire at a couple hotels. Another boarding home was condemned by code enforcement, kind of creating a lot of homelessness all at once in Jefferson County. Until this last year, they did not ever use the Pleasant Night Inn. They used hotels in Watertown. They had never used the Pleasant Night Inn. But there became so many, the volume was so high, there was not enough hotel rooms.
Anyone else have any more questions for Jenny?
So we've changed our procedures and we will not be using the Pleasant Night Inn for sex offenders or anybody that's known to be disruptive. But that doesn't mean we still don't have to house them.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, to dockets, Sandra. The first one is authorizing agreement between Lewis County Community Services and Children's Home of Jefferson County for licensed psychologist, and or psychiatrist services and CPL 730 and mental health law 960 cases from July 6, 2022 through December 31st, 2023 for a cost not to exceed $750 per case unless otherwise agreed upon. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carried. Amending compensation plan with reference to the Lewis County General Hospital to create 2 full-time clerk positions at a salary range of $13.86 to $18.05 per hour and 3 part-time nursing assistant positions at a salary range of $13.98 to $18.36 per hour.
Any discussion?
Jenny, I didn't get the email before I left home this morning, and I haven't been back. Did you get the email on these?
I didn't, but I remember from the HR meeting.
Yeah, could you give us that?
I'll do my best. So the 2 full-time clerk positions, last year we created, a higher level clerk position, recognizing people had lots of experience. The problem is those experienced people have moved to the higher position and we have no pathway to get someone started at the beginning so then they can test for the higher level position. So these 2 clerk positions are entry level. The goal is there's no increase in the base number of employees. It's the same number. We just needed a lower level, entry level position to get some people started in order to move up. So it's no increase in numbers of people, just another title. And as far as the 3 part-time nursing assistants, that is to try to alleviate some of the stress on the acute care floor. So this is not nursing home. This is acute care floor nursing assistants to kind of hit weekends and some of those night shifts where we may be running short of LPNs and RNs. So they'll be working some of the different shifts, not day shifts where there's a lot of staff around, so that nursing assistants can really be assisting direct patient care on the road. All within the budget.
Thanks. Anything else? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carries.
Authorizing agreement between Lewis County Office for the Aging and Consumer-Directed Choices for the purpose of consumer-directed in-home services under EISEP and CSE from August 1st, 2022 through July 31st, 2023 at a cost of $27 per hour.
Any discussion?
What's the EISEP and CSE?
ISIP is our in-home care program at Office for the Aging.
Okay.
That's one of the main 3 programs that we provide there, along with nutrition, the meal program, and the insurance counseling. In-home care is one of the big 3.
Okay.
We have a shortage of in-home care workers. We have a waiting list of folks that would like in-home care. And I'd like to tee up Crystal a little bit because we're gonna have her come back in July and talk about this issue a little bit more in depth. So Crystal, why don't you give us a little preview of next month and what we're trying to accomplish with this?
Yeah, so this contract, we have an existing, so consumer-directed care is another way of getting an aid to provide you care in your home. The idea is that the consumer, the older adult, chooses their aid. It might be their niece or their cousin's neighbor. And the state has several different programs where the consumer can choose their aid, and these organizations like this, Consumer-Directed Choices, is the fiscal intermediary. So they are the financial pass-through. They hire the aid, they train the aid, and they pay the aid. So we have an existing contract with Planet Staffing in Utica, but they haven't been performing to the level that I'd like to see them perform. This company is out of Albany. A few other counties, offices for the aging programs have begun working with them. They have some innovative solutions around recruiting aids, different payment structures that I would like to give a try here. So that's this contract. And like Ryan said, our waiting list for in-home care is my biggest concern. We need to do something about it. I mean, the aid crisis is a nationwide problem, so we can't, I don't think we're gonna fix it, but we need to continue looking for creative ways like this and other solutions that we can discuss next month around how to identify aids and get them into people's homes. ISEP, the whole design of ISEP is for folks before they reach Medicaid eligibility. So these are low-income seniors, but they're not Medicaid eligible yet. They need care in their homes to stay home, to stay out of the nursing home. So it is both in our own quality, all of our families, I'm sure, have experienced this, that we want to keep folks home to ensure their quality of life. And we want to keep them off Medicaid. because that's gonna save us all money. But we need aides to do that.
They have a set amount of caseload they can have, right?
What's that?
The caseload for each aide is very limited, that they can only have so many that they're looking after, or is it just one to one?
No, I wouldn't say the caseload's limited. I would say that many aides are young working mothers who are bouncing around from house to house providing care, and so they maybe, some of them work full-time, some of them work 20 hours. It's a complicated business because of the nature of the care.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carries.
Authorizing agreements between Lewis County Public Health Agency and independent registered nurses and/or LPNs for pre-K special education services from July 1st, 2022 until terminated by either party at a not to exceed amount of $72 per hour.
Discussion? All in favor, aye? Opposed, nay? Carries.
Authorizing agreement between Lewis County Public Health Agency and OCV LLC as host of the publichealthapp.com for a cost not to exceed $26,378 for development, premier marketing kit, and 3 years support and maintenance services.
Any discussion or questions?
What is it?
Yeah.
This is,
Sorry.
this is our naturally healthy app that Public Health has developed a few years ago. We want to migrate that to a new platform. Ashley, why don't you take it from there?
So we launched this app as part of our community health improvement plan to market local produce, so farm stands, farmers markets, as well as local physical activity opportunities, parks, trails, things to keep people healthy. We have been through 2 vendors now, with limited success as far as the ease of updating the information, as well as the ease of use by the end user. We came across this company who's worked with other health departments, and they do more than what we're looking for. So it would not only be, our naturally healthy information, but it'd also be information in regard to where we're having flu clinics or COVID clinics, or the latest information in regard to, whatever we have that's going on that the public would need to be made aware of. Obviously, the last 2 years was COVID, so a lot of that information could have gone out and push notifications for those individuals who have the app downloaded. So this company is highly regarded by the health departments that are currently working with them. And they did some mock-ups of what it would be like for us. The support is much greater than what we had in the past. So it's something that we'd like to move towards. We have funding right now that would allow us to do that, as well as grant funding for years to come to continue to pay for the service.
So grants would be paying for this?
Yes.
We find people, is the public using these apps to tell?
We have about 500 downloads so far, so it's not great. And again, we haven't done a huge marketing campaign. We did a limited marketing in 2019, which is when we got the majority of the downloads. So we could do a better job of pushing it out there, but we haven't done so because of the limited usability of the app. We haven't been fully satisfied with it yet.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Seems
Opposed, nay?
expensive to me for 500 people, but okay.
Carries.
Amending compensation plan with reference to the Department of Social Services to create 1 temporary social services program examiner position at grade 20 with a salary range of $20.02 to $23.53 per hour to assist with heat.
Discussions?
How many people is that gonna give us in there, Jenny?
That'll give me two temporary examiners and 1 clerk. to be helping with the volume of heat.
I was just gonna say, you're gonna need more as time goes on.
We drowned last year.
Yeah.
And this year with the price of fuel, I'm expecting a huge increase in heat applications.
Okay. Will the funding that we'll be receiving for heat increase?
That's a really good question, and I don't have the answer to that. So, it likely will probably not cover it 100%. We get an administrative allocation based on our distribution of funds for the prior year. We distributed about $2.4 million in heat last year. So I would expect we would have a little bit more than the year before.
Any other questions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries.
Authorizing agreement between Lewis County Department of Social Services and Lewis County Office for the Aging regarding Home Energy Assistance Program from October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023, at a cost not to exceed $10,000.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries.
Authorizing agreement between Lewis County Department of Social Services and Northeast Parent and Child Society from July 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023, at a cost not to exceed the maximum aid rate established by the state for the provision of foster care services.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries.
Authorizing renewal agreement between Department of Social Services and North Country Prenatal Perinatal Council from September 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2024, at various session costs to provide rehabilitative and supportive services to families in accordance with criteria established by department regulations.
Discussion?
It's gonna cross 2 budget years then? Right?
Yes. We're doing a two-year renewal.
Okay, good.
Any other questions?
Where are they from?
Their main office is in Watertown, but they have employees that work right here in Loudville at Model Academy. They have community health workers, the North Country Prenatal Perinatal Council. It's a lot with public health, a very well-respected organization.
Jenny, is I meant to point out, resolution number 8, Northeast Parent Child. Is that the parent name
Yes.
of Parsons?
It's Parsons, Northern
Yes.
Rivers.
Right.
That's the
So
corporate
earlier, when we were in the earlier committee, we were talking about probation, and they had a expensive placement with secure detention. This was the one in Albany that I was said would be coming down the pipe, so.
This isn't a secure detention
No, I know.
location, but
Well, I had mixed up the
Oh.
location of the secure detention, but there's another specialized contract for a special.
this is actually a pre-adoptive home that we want to move a child to in hopes of an adoption of a 14-year-old girl.
All in favor, aye.
Yes.
Opposed, nay. Carries.
Authorizing agreement between the Lewis County Department of Social Services and Pratt Northam Foundation to serve as administrator of the Pratt Northam Careers Here program, retroactive to January 1st, 2022 through March 31st, 2023, at an administrative fee of $10,000, with $5,000 of the fee to be designated as a stipend to Lisa Hetzner for her management of the program.
Any questions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries.
Appropriating funds for the Careers Here and Workership Program at an amount of $51,000 and $4,973 respectively.
Any discussion?
Is that in our budget? Or is it coming out of contingency?
No, we're going to get that money from the Pratt Northam Foundation for the Careers Here program.
You're
that
just
we're gonna-
administering that.
So it's, yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries.
Reappointing Ward Daly and Michelle Ledoux to the Lewis County Youth Bureau Advisory Board for a term of July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2024.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay.
Carries. Authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with Jefferson County to share Veterans Services employee for County of Lewis for an initial period through December of 2022.
Any discussion?
There is details to be figured out in the situation. They haven't asked us for any money yet, but I think they probably will. So by the time this comes from committee to the full board, we hope to have some of those details filled in. So,
Why such a short time?
In conversations that we had, I had the impression from the board that we wanted to give it a try with Jefferson County, but leave the option open for us to refund that position in the 2023 budget if we wanted to. So let's see how it goes over the next 6 months, and then we can make a decision if we want to bring it back in-house in the budget. So,
Do we know how many veterans are served?
no, I have annual reports from the past, and I have monthly logs from the more recent past, and I wouldn't say that those exactly match. So I think we'll have a more accurate count probably through Jefferson County. There's an active caseload of 6 when we made the change, so that's certainly not very high.
Okay.
This gives us a chance to see if the level of service can be the same or a little better than what we had.
Right, I mean, I think it's important to serve our veterans.
Yep.
For sure. There's a limit to the number of days. I understand on call, but still, I don't think if we've offered that service in the past, we should continue. It's feasible.
Yep, I agree. So the question is going to be availability, right? So, now we've got 2 days a week of in-person availability. That's the disadvantage because we had theoretically 5 days before. However, we've got a back office staff now of 6 that are working on the paperwork and processing claims, whereas before we only had a total staff of 1. So I think we need to watch it and see whether the efficiency and quality of service is better, even though there's only 2 days a week in person, or whether we prefer the 5 days a week and recognizing that, with one person working, it might take longer to work on, claims and all that stuff. I think we've got to watch that. But anyway, that's why we only did it for 6 months, because maybe we do want to bring this back in-house.
I think we all agree with you, Jeff, that we'd like to keep it in-house if we can, but it has to be viable on the other side.
Right, if there's only 6 people or.
There's only 6 people,
There's only,
we can't.
right, it doesn't make sense, I understand, that's why I was wondering how many.
So one of the things we're going to work on is getting a more complete idea of the level of engagement with the veterans in the community. My understanding is that we already had some cases that were going to Oneida County and Jefferson County kind of on their own. So if we can start to round all those folks up and, kind of get a full count of the monthly need, more or less, that would probably give us a better idea. But, maybe we don't need a full-time, that's what the data might say is we don't necessarily need a full-time person. If that's the case, we might be better off having someone here 2 days a week and a back office staff that can get the claims done more quickly. So I think we've got to keep track of that.
Is this a specialized position, or is it something that a veteran who is a veteran is looking for employment could do? Is that,
Well, first of all, it must be a veteran.
okay,
Okay, and second of all, it is specialized. You have to go through training. You have to maintain accreditation. So this person has got to be qualified to fill out veterans benefit information. They've got to be qualified to work within various veterans computer systems, right? So they've got to have credentials to be able to log on and match people up with benefits and look up service records and those types of things. So it can't, it has to be someone that is has the training that's qualified to do it. Called the Veteran Service Officer. There's a few on Fort Drum. Jefferson County has 6. We had one. So,
They become real handy when anybody has a problem. Your general veteran stuff can all be done online. But if you've got a problem with something with the system or major health problems, your VSO becomes very handy. He's got the connections to get you where you have to go.
Knows how to navigate the system.
Yeah.
you know, we should invite, so the gentleman that's gonna be here 2 days a week is actually the director of the department in Jefferson County. He used to work in Lauco, at Kubica AMF as the HR director. He's a veteran, and he lives in Natural Bridge. In fact, half his properties in Jefferson County, half his properties in Lewis County. So,
That's fitting.
maybe we can invite Dave, is his name, to come to one of the meetings, you know, maybe before budget season or during budget season, and talk about his experience and give us some idea of what, you know, he thinks would be best going forward.
Absolutely. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carries.
I have a motion to authorize Community Services Director Patricia Freilich to create and send out an RFP for required medication-assisted treatment programming in the Lewis County Jail as outlined in Chapter 432 of New York State Correction and Mental Hygiene Laws of New York.
I'll make that motion if I can get a second.
Yes, yeah.
And discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carries.
The second motion is to authorize Community Services Director Patricia Freilich to create and send out an RFP for an IT solution to improve referrals as well as interagency and community communication to enhance wraparound case management services in Lewis County.
I'll make that motion if I can get a second.
Sure.
Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carries. Motion to adjourn?
Wait, one comment.
No, we already made a motion, sorry.
You get the Ryan Award for duration.
I know. I've been bad.
It was that task I got.
Yeah, actually, no, it was your fault. You had all the questions. I would have questions.
Well,
And you're sitting in that seat.
Jeff needs the motion to adjourn, I'll second it.
Any legislator that,
Oh,
yeah, packet of Rails to Trails information if you're going out and talking to towns and villages or folks in your district.
And you can send that out electronically too,
We're
please.
making maps down in the real property office too, with the rails on them, they've been pretty useful so far.
Yep.
Are you going
You
down?
wanna, any, you know, you got any questions from anyone in your district?
I bring him
talk
back,
to
my
us.
son's choo-choo trains, and, yeah.
We have trains from the health insurance consultant for the